What is up, family? It is officially 2024. That's absolutely crazy to say, but that means that the Casually Ambitious Performance Club is almost here. What the heck is this club you speak of? You may be asking yourself. That's a great question. This is a coaching program for high-performing individuals. Whether you're a former athlete, weekend warrior, or just want to do some hard shit, this program may be for you. It's a hybrid training style with a high volume of running and a lot of lifting. It comes with half, full, and ultra marathon plans, a full strength training program to complement the runs, diet and nutrition programming for every single meal, and mindset modules to help get your mind right to be the best version of you across the board. This is perfect for somebody looking to PR their next marathon, run 100 miles, or maybe just become an all-around beast of an athlete. The program officially launches January 29, but you can sign up for the email updates and more info at the link in my Instagram bio or in the show notes. I will see you there. Welcome visionaries, dreamers, and trailblazers to the Casually Ambitious podcast. I'm your host, Chase Price, and I am thrilled to embark on this journey with you. Here, we dive deep into the realms of wellness, entrepreneurship, and mindset. Let's build a life we love while loving the life we live. The adventure to a more mindful, purposeful, and casually ambitious life starts now. What's up, Heather? Good morning. Welcome to the Casually Ambitious podcast. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm amazing. I see you rocking the shirt, of course. Is that some of the new apparel that you guys just got in?
Yes. Mitchell was like, "What are you wearing today?" And he said, "You need to rock Asé gear."
Absolutely.
So yeah, I got pink, which I was super excited about because we have a lot of black and white, and I tend to be a colorful person.
Yeah.
So I like color.
Yeah. I'm surprised to hear you say that because most of the stuff that you guys do is black and white for the most part, which I love. I'm very simplistic. I'm like black, whites for the most part. That's what I like. But every once in a while, like a nice subtle tone to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, everything is black and white. The logo's black and white, but we have a colorful logo also. We just don't market it that much that displays the colors of the meaning of the logo. But I like color.
I just saw your post about that, which was like, oh, there's fire, wind, water. What's the last one?
Earth.
And earth. Okay, I didn't know. Yeah, now that you pointed out, I actually noticed it. But like, talk to me a little bit about that. What was the development? What was the idea behind that when you first started it?
So that was part of the intention of the design. What was really purposeful was that it was round. So I wanted circle, but that I really wanted to incorporate the elements. And so a lot of people, I always assume people know when they look at it that that's what it is. But as I'm learning marketing, I realized actually they don't notice that. The depth is so awesome. And to give it that meaning when people are walking around or supporting the brand, that they understand the depth of what it actually means. And especially athletes. So as the elements relate to us as humans, it's our fire within, the air element, the adaptability, the earth, the grounded, the foundation, the strength, and then the fluidity of water. And so, yeah.
And speak to the name a little bit, Asé, like super unique name, probably gets mispronounced 90% of the time when people see it. Speak to where that came from and the meaning behind it, because I know there's something there.
Yes, it definitely gets butchered. It's a hard one to say. Asé is actually an African word, and what it means is the power to make things happen. So it comes from the Yoruba tribe in Africa, and I'm an ordained minister, and so during my ministry training, we would always end all of our prayer with Asé. And so I studied under the 13 indigenous grandmothers, and what we did is we learned all different types of spirituality and religions. So we would study Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, but we always ended with Amen and Asé. And so it had depth to the meaning, and it means the power to make things happen. So and so it is.
Yeah, love that. We'll get into that a little bit further down the road, but before we jump too far ahead, I want to speak to your backstory a little bit. Are you a Charlotte native? How long have you been in Charlotte for?
I am not a Charlotte native. I have been in Charlotte since 2006.
Okay.
So
From where initially?
Well, I've been all over the East Coast. So originally I'm from Baltimore. I grew up in Baltimore, and then as I got older, I moved to Virginia. So I lived in Virginia Beach and then transferred here. So
Okay.
always the East Coast babe.
I used to live in Ellicott City, outside of Baltimore for a little bit.
The notorious haunted Ellicott City?
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've been back. Shout out to the Ravens because they're actually legit this year.
They are legit.
Are you a Baltimore Ravens fan?
I'm not a huge football person, but I always root for the Ravens if they're playing. But I'm more of a Panthers fan as a Charlotte girl now.
Okay.
And they suck.
Yes, they're painful to watch, so you should
awful.
stick with the Ravens for now. So what brought you initially to Charlotte all those years ago?
That's a good question. My kids, I have a 20 and 21, 19 and 20-year-old. And when we moved here, they were 2 and 3 years old. And we picked this location for school, and we just loved Charlotte, the city. It has this big city vibe with a little city feel. You have your professional teams, and the schools are awesome. So we picked it for that very reason.
And at that time, what was your career?
So I actually was a stay-at-home mom for about 17 years.
Wow.
And what we did is we actually were in the IT field. So I did marketing work for our company. So we sold emerging technologies for virtualized environments, so storage-based solutions. And I did marketing for that.
Okay. And when did this whole fitness wellness journey kind of start to take place for you? Were you practicing a lot of these things that you're still practicing now at this time? Has it been for the last 20 years, or was it really, kind of a pivotal moment where that kind of transitioned for you and you leaned into that a little bit more?
So I did not do any type of sports. I wouldn't even have considered myself an athlete, or I didn't even work out until I was in my 30s. So what happened was I actually was highly medicated on a lot of pharmaceutical drugs. I was looking to the medical industry to help me through some depression, some anxiety, and attention problems. And so it just became a roller coaster of basically what happened is they just kept giving me more medication to fix another one. So it started with antidepressants, and then it was Adderall, and then it was Valium, and then it was sleeping pills. And it was like one would cause problems, and then they would just give me another pill. Mm-hmm. And so I just believed in the medical industry and just thought that they knew what they were talking about. And it ended up being quite a disaster for me. Not once did anybody ask me what my diet was, what my nutrition was, if I exercise, if I meditate, what my community looks like. And so once I started having a lot of really side effects, and I was gaining a lot of weight. I wasn't feeling better. I was taking all of these medications. Mm-hmm. And I started to do a ton of research, my own research. And once I did that, I made a decision to stop. And when I did that, it was really difficult. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I don't know if it was the antidepressants or the Adderall that was harder, but they were awful to detox from and come off of.
You had withdrawal symptoms because you had been taking them for so long?
Yes. Mm-hmm. The chemistry in your brain gets really wonky. So you feel for me, I felt really crazy, and it was really hard to stay grounded mm-hmm. and have that mental strength to get through it, because it was more than just being mentally tough. There was a chemical component going on in the brain.
Right.
But the good thing is, because I had never exercised, I didn't have that. So once I started exercising, I really started to get the benefits of the mental and the physical. And so really one day I ran out my front door and I couldn't even run a mile. I was so out of shape. Like, I had never ran. But I just tied up my shoes, ran out the door, and went for maybe a mile. And when I got back, I felt good. I felt really good. And I was like, okay, I'll just keep running. And it literally changed my life. And that's really where it started.
And when was that?
I don't know, like 15 years ago.
Okay. And so you start to exercise, you start to run. Are you also starting to get into the gym, or is this kind of just running 1 mile a day type thing? Like, what does that transition look like for you early on?
I just started running through my neighborhood. And then I decided I was going to train for a half marathon. And then I just started training and I never stopped. And then somebody had recommended I go to the trails and do trail running, because I had only been road running for maybe a year. And I went to the trails and I fell in love with the trails, but they were really hard for me in the beginning. I fell quite a bit. I got lost a few times, which was scary. But it literally transformed my life. It was better on my body. I found it to be more therapeutic to be in nature, immersed in nature. And there's also science to the eye tracking when you're running, especially outside. And if you're a trail runner, you can't really look away from looking down, and your eyes are absolutely tracking side to side. So there's a therapeutic component to that, which I was unaware of at the time, but it actually rewires your brain in a positive state. So it becomes a natural medication, if you will.
I can relate to the doctor aspect of being, so I've been prescribed Adderall for a long time, since I was in college. I still am. I take it very sparingly. And that's one of the things that I opted to do, was like, it was giving me anxiety because we kept upping my dosage because it wasn't as effective, right? You get it tolerance. So the dosage starts to increase, but then additional side effects start to appear. So for me, that was anxiety. So I get really bad social anxiety. And to counteract that, they would say, okay, let's give you something else to fight that. So you can still take your Adderall, but you can still take this on the side and hopefully they'll level out, whatever. I refused to do that because I didn't want to be, on multiple things. So I was just like, can we just kind of dwindle back on the dosage and I'll figure it out. And now I still am prescribed. I take it very, very sparingly, but it seems like that's the easy answer for doctors to just say, and they're incentivized to do so as well, to just say, hey, here's another thing that hopefully if this is bringing you up, this will bring you down and kind of balance things out, right? And that's kind of the narrative that, you guys are on a mission to break away from and try to break this cycle of people taking things to go up, things to go down, and that sort of thing, right?
100%. So that's what happened to me. Not the anxiety was part of it for me as well, but also I've never been somebody that looked to drink. I've never been a big drinker. It's just not been something I've been attracted to all of my life. And there is a component of something that it activated in my brain, and it made me want to drink alcohol. And I don't know and also my caffeine production was way up when I do Adderall. I noticed that I would have a need to drink more. Also, it destroyed my skin to the point where I actually needed to go for Accutane. And so I'm on a huge mission because I've overcome all of that. I've seen the detrimental side effects of not just Adderall for me, but the antidepressants, the Valium, and the sleeping pills, and the side effects that come with those. So that is our mission. Our mission is to bring people natural products to help them that are safe and effective for their body, that don't have long-term side effects, and are safe on the liver or safe on the kidney, that it's a system, a component in our body that we actually produce our own version of. We don't have our own version of Valium. We don't have our own version even of ibuprofen. And so we have natural pain relievers that we produce on our own. And there are natural ways to make them. And then there are natural supplements that you can take that are way safer in an endogenous way of getting them in your body.
So I have to assume, Asé, I'm just going to speak to the muscle gel specifically because that's like the primary product and that's the one I'm the most familiar with. But it didn't look the same that it does today that it did when you first started development. So when was this like kind of spark plug idea to get you to say, okay, there's an opportunity here. There's a gap in the market and there's something that I need for myself. It's a personal pain point, but I'm sure hundreds of thousands to millions of other people have the same problem. So what did that look like initially?
So it wasn't actually the muscle gel that it started with, even though I was an athlete. My daughter is an equestrian rider and had a horseback riding accident and got a really bad concussion. And when we went to the neurologist, when you have a concussion, you cannot take ibuprofen because it's a blood thinner.
Right.
But they do recommend that you take Tylenol. And I know that Tylenol is very toxic for the liver. So I was really opposed to her using any toxic pain relievers. And when I asked the neurologist if he had any natural recommendations, it was a CBD recommendation. And I already knew that CBD worked really well for me for my stress and anxiety. So I was using it internally. What I found was when I was giving it to my daughter, who I think was 15 at the time, for me, when I was taking it, I wasn't concerned about the taste or the flavor, or I would find trusted resources. But when you're giving it to your 15-year-old, your standards go way higher. And so I did a ton of research and wanted to give her what was best, but also tasted really good. And we had a really hard time finding something that she would comfortably ingest that tasted good to her. Mm-hmm. So we did a formulation where it's a sweet peppermint. So it's in our quality control is top notch. So we're trusted for quality control. Those were some things that I found were gaps in the market, were taste and quality control measures. So people weren't doing the third-party testing that would make it a quality control measure that's, ethically responsible to give it to human consumption. So we took that stringent very serious. And then also the formulation, it took like 6 months to get that formulation flavor profile with a cannabis chemist. And on top of that, she was using other CBD, but it worked for her. And so that's where the passion really came in, to see it helped with her mental clarity, it helped with her pain, but it also helped with mood support for her, because it really interferes with the chemistry in your brain when you get a concussion, and it stabilized her in a way that gave her peace.
Mm-hmm. Is that same formulation that took you guys 6 months to figure out at first the same formulation you guys use today?
The CBD component formulation is the same, but the actual flavor profile is different.
Okay.
So ours is way better and cleaner.
Back to the pod in just a second, but hey, you've been putting it off too long. It's 2024 and time to get your nutrition dialed in. If you don't know where to start, I'll help you out. Flex Pro meals. I've been using Flex Pro for the past 4 or 5 months and honestly have been blown away. Check this out. Very important tip. When you order, choose the by the pound option. That's what I use. That way I can just handpick my protein, veggie, and carb just the way I want it. They have next day delivery options. Who does that? And a ton of options to get your diet cleaned up for the new year. For a limited time, you can use code CPRICE for 40% off your first order. Now, back to the pod. So from the jump, did you realize when you started to formulate this product, you obviously worked with a chemist to get it right and get everything technically sound where you wanted it to be, get the taste right, all these things. In the back of your mind, where you're like, I'm trying to, there's an opportunity here. I'm trying to create this product and maybe build a brand around this. Was that your mentality the whole time?
Oh, yes, 100%. Like, here's the thing. I had never even done business, so I was ignorant enough to be brave enough to go for it, which is awesome because in hindsight, it's super hard. But yes, once I decided I was going to do it, I was like, this is it. This is where my passion is. This is what I want to do. I was recently divorced, and so I was on a mission to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. Didn't have any rush to really figure that out. So really was looking to see what my passion was. And it just rolled into that's what it is. This is my story. This is what works. This is what I believe. And we're going to make it better and we're going to change the industry. And I'm going to break the stigma behind it because what I realized is a lot of people are scared, and rightfully so. It's been stigmatized in a way that puts fear and shame on people. And it was done that way very intentionally. And so people, when they hear it, they shy away from it. And it's just a lack of education and awareness, because once you really understand the components of the body and the system that we have, the endocannabinoid system, you really realize that this is actually something that's safe, that's effective, and way more natural. And it's something, once you realize, you're like, I want that. And it's just a safer, natural alternative that works better. And I just want to bring education to people so that they understand that this is amazing. This is not bad.
When you're talking about it was done intentionally, are you speaking to kind of like big pharma and doctors trying to just push medications that are making them more money? And like saying, mental health is kind of this taboo thing that you kind of keep to yourself and you take your medication, you stay quiet. Is that what you mean?
Yes. So big pharma is an industry that profits. And so while sometimes medical care is necessary, it is, if you look at the antidepressants that they're pushing, it's an epidemic. Like you should not go to the doctor and them not even ask you if you are exercising, what your nutrition is.
Should be the first question they ask.
It should be the very first question. Mm-hmm. And especially even if you just look at nutrition, there's a huge component. I mean, let alone the pharmaceutical industry epidemic, our food industry is an epidemic in and of itself, which the Food and Drug Administration is the same company. So the whole umbrella is corrupt.
Interesting to think about that.
And we're the only country in the world that has the Food and Drug Administration under the same umbrella that work together.
I had never thought about it. I'd never put two and two together in that sense before.
Yeah, so if you make the food bad.
Well, as we already know that. I mean, that's more transparent, I feel like, and readily talked about than the drug side of things. So we're all like, yeah, we know we're eating shit, but it's like, there's not, a lot of us aren't aware of the right alternatives to consume. Whereas in the drug side of things, we don't know any alternatives for what to take, or they're not in existence for the most part,
Well, if you make food that makes people sick and you put out a food pyramid that's absolute bogus.
Right.
And then you create medication that makes people better. I mean, that's a good business.
Yeah. It makes sense.
It's a good business model.
It makes sense. So talk to me about the development. So we start with the CBD oil product, which eventually you take this formulation and you put it into a muscle gel type of product. What did that look like? How long did that take to come to fruition from idea to trying all these formulas out for what actually works for like a topical ointment? And what did that look like?
So that was fun because I would put my body to the test and really do hard endurance exercises and use the formulation. I also have a background in essential oils, so I studied aromatherapy for several years and really understood the benefits of aromatherapy and essential oils on the body. And so when the formulation was put in place, it's not just that it's a hemp-derived CBD, but it has 15 different essential oils in it. And these essential oils are beneficial for specific to analgesic and inflammation, so pain and inflammation. And adding all of those components into it, not only does it smell good, but it works fantastic. So I would just use it on myself. I would destroy my body and recover with it and see how it worked. And it works. Mm-hmm. And so no better way to do it than to put yourself to the test yourself.
It absolutely works. I can speak to that. My mom uses it. She uses it, I told you guys, for her tension headaches, which is a really unique use case that I hadn't thought of. My stepmom now uses it. She just put on her story like 2 or 3 days ago. She has tennis elbow, so she uses it there. But it's interesting to see the different use cases for it when you think about like a tension headache or something about like that. So speak to like how there's a broad spectrum, no pun intended, because that's one of the product names for the use case of it and how it can go from, for me, I use it, I have IT band issues. So I try to get ahead of it and use it on my knees and my calves more specifically lately, but then it can go and treat headaches. So talk to me about like the broad use case of it.
For the topical specifically?
For the topical, that's just kind of what I know the best. So that's what I'm the most intrigued about.
So the topical's awesome. So as an athlete, we use it for athletic recovery. And like, obviously you're saying your IT, people use it for knees, plantar fasciitis, which doesn't have to be just athletic related.
Sure.
I mean, we even have people use it for so we're housed in chiropractors, functional medicine doctors, health and wellness, running stores. But when you're going to a chiropractor, you know, it's not just an athletic based visit. These are older people. These are people with chronic pain. And so, we always say it's for grandma too. So grandma loves it, whether it's for arthritis pain that they're finding that they get relief from, shoulder pain, back pain. I actually have people now putting it on their dermatitis or eczema or skin. People use it for bug bites. So it's pretty amazing, and it's really kind of trial and error and then anecdotal reporting. And so that's what we're finding that it's really working for. And I actually just gave a girl a bottle yesterday to try because she's got some skin issues on her elbow. And then she's going to take it internally and topically just to get that double dose. But it's pretty awesome how it works. So if you're a runner and you're doing an endurance run and you don't need your bug bite spray, you can use your topical CBD.
It's super simple to use. It's super easy. I probably wasn't using it correctly at first because Mitch was like, slap the shit on, bro. Like, bathe in this stuff. That's how you really get it to work. But it's been kind of a game changer for me. It really has. For like the hundreds, and when you're talking about beating the shit out of your body, it's almost a must. Like once you have it, you can't go back because you're like, man, I'm kind of dependent on this. Like I take it every 20 miles or so on my hundreds and things like that. So really is a game changer. So shout out to you guys for a phenomenal product. I want to speak a little bit about the growth of the company and growing the company and what that's looked like. Talk to me a little bit about some of the advantages and disadvantages of being primarily online D2C company. Obviously you're getting more into mom and pop shops and some of these other running stores, things like that, but there are good and bad things about being an online D2C company. So what does that look like for y'all?
Ultimately, when first starting the business, the goal was to be direct to consumer, and it actually, that was the original intention. And then it was more B2B because it felt like it was an easier transition, believe it or not. In the beginning of the stages of growing the business, being an entrepreneur is brutal, and I had no idea what I was set out to do. But how does it work? So, I mean, it's grit and grind and the ability to take no's and just keep going. I feel like being an entrepreneur is about having unshakable faith with no real proof that anything's going to work out, and you just keep going. And I'm really glad I did, because it's working out really well. And so for me, the truth was, it's really one person, one customer, one store at a time. It's never been this massive overnight success. It's literally been talking to one person, educating that person, and then that person tells somebody, and it's really just kind of that domino effect, which takes a lot of time.
Grassroots movement, like the guerrilla marketing campaign movement, it's the most effective because you're getting such deep-seated buy-in from these folks, right? A lot of these folks like know you guys personally, and they feel like more connected to the brand. So it's more than just buying a product. It's like sending a handwritten note in the box, right? Like there's that deeper seated connection, which obviously you guys think about.
Yes, it's very important. We're people, and we care about people, and we're here to make a difference. So when your passion is in it that way, it's not really about the business. It's about having a purpose and helping people. And it just speaks for itself, but it takes time.
Mm-hmm. So you guys have started the ambassador program, which has been awesome. A lot of my homies are in the ambassador program, which is cool. That's one way to grow. So it sounds like you are going more towards the B2B. So you're trying to reach out to running stores in these places and get on shelves. Is that the primary goal right now?
Yes. Yes. So we are on shelves. Like we're in some larger retails, Earth Fare, we're in Earth Fare stores, which, they have I think 30 stores across the nation. We're working on running stores. We're in some running stores. We're in basically a lot of doctors, a lot of chiropractors, and that's all across the U.S. And so those are just other ways to get people aware of the product and other people that are passionate. We partner really well with chiropractors because they're on a mission to help people from a natural perspective too. And they've also been on that side of being attacked as being, quacks.
Yeah.
And now people realize that those things aren't true. Mm-hmm. And it's less, I feel like we hear that less and more people are going to chiropractors. But if you notice, every professional sports team or pro athlete, they have a chiropractor on staff or they see a chiropractor.
Absolutely.
Because it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so we work really well tandemly with chiropractors because we're helping solve a problem from a natural perspective to help the patient at the root cause.
You talked a little bit about, as an entrepreneur, getting smacked in the mouth, which we do all the time, right? You got to kind of go through the shit, so to speak, from time to time. Do you have any stories about kind of the come up and failing forward in ways that, things didn't work out quite like you thought it would, but you learned from it and then took it into your next season with Asé?
Yeah. What is it? Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Yeah, I've been punched in the face many times. I think what happens is you just get tougher and you learn that that's part of the process. And so specifically what I've learned, there's so many stories. What I think is the best thing to know is you learn and you go and things just transpire the way that they're supposed to. And things just roll into the way that they're meant to be. And when an example would be when I first started the company, I didn't think that the muscle gel and specifically focus on athletes was where we were going to go. I just wanted to help people, and it turned out that's who I am. And I think a lot of times we end up doing, I think the best way that's been for me is just to be who I am and do what I do. And then just being who you are helps transpire into what it is. But you just have to learn to be mentally tough. You have to learn to do hard things, to be told no, to fail, to know it's going to be way harder than you think it's going to be. Things are not going to always work out the way that you intend them to be, but they do work out the way they're supposed to. If you don't quit, you can't quit.
Yeah. The universe finds a way to have your back most of the time. You put yourself out there. Have you found it? So it's a male dominated industry, like the endurance athlete industry, product, sport, doesn't matter. Obviously there's plenty of females, but do you think has it been harder for you as a female founder in the space, or is that an advantage for you?
That's a really good question. So I think there's a lot of stigma around it's hard to be a female entrepreneur, and I disagree. I think I don't know if that gives me an advantage or it doesn't, but I think when you say you're a female business, people like to hear that, so maybe that's an advantage. I don't feel disadvantaged as a female. I think if you are willing to do the work and you do what is necessary and you're providing a good product and you're solving a problem for people, I don't think they care if you're male or female. But that's my opinion.
Yeah. And you have just, a unique perspective and a unique story coming into it. And it's almost like kind of an underdog story. Not taking anything away from you, but it's nice to see some female founders like doing some kick-ass things. Obviously, you got a strong man behind you here as well. No, I was just curious about that because, entrepreneurship is just really hard. Have you found fellow entrepreneurs to kind of lean on through the journey that you're tight with, or because it's very lonely. As a solopreneur for the most part, you kind of start to build your team and you start to put things together here and there, but you fuck up a lot. You learn by trial and error, trial by fire. A lot of times get punched in the mouth, like we said. Have you found solace in other entrepreneurs to connect with, or has it been kind of a solo journey for you?
It is a lonely journey until it's not. It 1,000%, I've leaned on mentors, and really what I have done is studied very successful people. And so I'll listen to their podcasts every day, and those would be people. So I'm also in an entrepreneur group with Andy Frisella and Ed Milet. And Arete Syndicate. Yes. Yeah. Are you in Arete?
No, but okay. I'm very familiar. I've almost signed up like many times in the past.
So I've been listening to Andy religiously and Ed for 4 years. So maybe not as long as some people would, have been, but I study. So I read and study people that are successful, and also I'm a big philosophy person. So I like Marcus Aurelius and just the way that we have a different perspective on life and how we perceive things. It's just helped me stay sane through the chaos. So just to have that perspective of control the controllables. And it just hasn't been something that was a learn once and done. It's something I have to consistently stay on top of. And so that's education, following mentors, and looking to people that inspire me. So huge entrepreneurs, I study them. I listen to all of their podcasts. I watch them like a hawk. I see their behaviors. What are they doing? Are they reading? Their personality, the types of people that they hang out with, their personal habits. And I just do what they do and what works for me, and it's working.
I love that. Gary Vee said something a couple years ago that I've leaned into really heavily, which was See who the people that you look up to, watch what they're doing. I mean, obviously, you hear what they're doing. They're putting content into the world, but like more so than what they're saying, watch what they're doing and like how they're going about it and how they're implementing, and study that, which I've kind of tried to do, especially on the social side, because you can see exactly their strategy and everything behind it, which has been really cool. What specifically resonated with you from Andy and Ed to make you want to link up with them?
It's an interesting dynamic of how I rolled into it, because I went from like studying shamans and doing meditation and working with monks, and I can meditate for like 2 hours, no problem. Like, I have become a master meditator. And then I rolled into, so it went from all of these different avenues. And then once I decided to be an entrepreneur, it wasn't about how do I meditate. It was about following the people for what I'm doing specifically. So, if you want to learn how to meditate, don't listen to Andy. But if you want to know how to do business, Andy would be an awesome person to listen to personally. Yeah. And so I felt like I needed to listen to the people that I always look to, people who are doing what it is that I want to do specifically. Mm-hmm. And he's grown an amazing business with First Form. And he's a straight shooter. I like people to shoot it to me straight. I don't like fluff. I don't like BS. I just want to hear the truth and get to the point. And I love his delivery and his approach. It just works for me. Me too.
I've been listening to Andy probably 7 or 8 years now. So that was a cool moment when I kind of linked up with First Form and signed on with them. But I got brought into the funnel from Andy's podcast. Back in the day, he used to have the MFCEO project, which is what I got linked up on. I'll be honest, I don't love Real Talk quite as much as I liked MFCEO. He gets political a bunch, and I just kind of tune out on some of this stuff. Not that I don't agree with a lot of what he's saying, but it's just, I like that inspirational, like, pick your shit up and go kind of pep talks that he gets into, and he still does from time to time. What other podcasts and books and things like that are you consuming on a daily basis?
So podcast, I literally only listen to a couple. That would be Ed and Andy. Books I read all the time. So I do a lot of like old school books like Napoleon Hill, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. But then I do like newer books. I love Tim Grover. I'm a huge Tim Grover fan. I like Endure, like Cameron Haynes books. I like all business books. And I just read all the time for education. But it's not just business. It's really about mindset and studying people who have worked. I'm a huge Tim Grover fan. I love Tim Grover too.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to kind of jump back to, I forgot to ask this when we were on the subject, was talking about, so you had mentioned something about when you have concussions, you're not supposed to take ibuprofen, right? Because it's a blood thinner. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And they say the same thing for endurance athletes when you're running 100-mile races and stuff, like, don't take ibuprofen. I don't know if it's for the blood thinning aspect of it or if it's something else, but they say like take Advil or Tylenol, excuse me, right? Take Tylenol. But now that all this new research is coming out to say, hey, these NSAIDs, as they're called, non-steroidal,
anti-inflammatories.
I knew you'd finish that off for me. So NSAIDs have really negative long-term effects on your body, on the liver, on these things that are kind of breaking them down. Speak to that a little bit. Like, what is some of this new information that's coming out that's changing the way people think? Like, not only do I use your guys' product and I just love how it makes me feel, but now that I'm learning this additional information about the long-term effects on my body and how it's breaking it down, it makes me even more incentivized to use an all-natural product, right? So speak to like some of this new information that's coming out, because I feel like a lot of people don't know. It's like studies are coming out slowly but surely, but it's like anything, it's like a trickle type effect. So what is the new information that's coming out about this stuff right now?
So I don't know if it's necessarily new information.
New to
but
me, I should
it's
say.
like people are becoming more aware, and in the education part of it, like we've all known that Tylenol and Advil are bad on the kidney and liver, but somehow we like our food, we just ignore it and we just keep consuming it. And then also as athletes, or really anybody that's in pain, when you're in pain, you go towards what you know works and what we do, quote unquote. There was a study, or there was something recently, and I don't know which product it was specifically, but it was a topical. And these topicals are so toxic, these NSAID topicals. So like you have
Excuse me.
you have Aleve and some other topicals that people are using. And even Olympic athletes that aren't allowed to use some of these natural things are using such toxic chemicals to put in their body. They had kittens lick the topical and they dropped dead. Like that's how toxic it is when it comes to when you start to understand, like if a kitten is just going to drop dead,
Wow.
you have to know you're slowly poisoning yourself regardless of your size. Like this is really, really toxic stuff.
And this is topical stuff
Topical.
that you're putting on your body.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not just internal. Actually, our skin is our largest organ. So we actually absorb more through our skin than we do because we have to filter the ingestibles through our kidney and liver. So the absorption availability is actually less than the topical.
Interesting.
That's why you get that immediate relief from the topical. It's immediate. It's right away. And so just to have these natural components of the essential oils and the hemp-derived CBD, it's safe, it's effective. Your animals can use it. Like, it's not going to kill them. And that's huge. And it's not just that it's going to kill your animals and you want to protect your animals, which we all do, but it's also the knowledge that if it's going to kill a cat, it's going to kill you eventually or slowly cause some real damage. And so just that awareness to understand that these chemical components are really toxic. Also, these things internally will disrupt your electrolyte system. And, that's a huge problem to have, especially as an athlete. Like the Advil will disrupt your electrolyte system. They actually cause inflammation. It's a temporary anti-inflammatory. And people that are chronic, like Advil users or ibuprofen users, when they come off of it, they find that they're actually less inflamed. And so just to be aware of those things and to pay attention to your body and how you're responding, because there are natural ways to do it.
Yeah. Interesting. I was not aware of the topical thing was more effective than ingesting. It seems counterintuitive a little bit to me, but that's super interesting. So from an endurance athlete's perspective, before I became aware of your guys' product, I was aware of, I've used BioFreeze, I've used PR lotion, stuff like this. What's the difference? What's the difference from what you guys are putting out to something like a BioFreeze that, kind of feels similar, but obviously there's different components going into it and the effectiveness is different?
So BioFreeze is natural, which is awesome. But when you add the components of the essential, so our product is like BioFreeze on steroids. Like BioFreeze has nothing on us effectively. You could literally use one on one leg and one on the other. You cannot deny the benefits. Like the magnification of the relief that you get from our product it can't touch us. And so BioFreeze is an awesome natural alternative to like an Advil or any of those kind of things. It's just not as effective. When you add the 15 essential oils and then the CBD, it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. And BioFreeze isn't going to give you that muscle pliability either. And that is a huge advantage when your muscles are pliable. It makes them more efficient and it makes you more productive.
Getting back to your journey as an endurance athlete and what you've accomplished thus far, what's been the hardest thing that maybe you're the most proud of that you've accomplished in the endurance space?
In the endurance space, I mean, I've done several 50Ks. They were hard, really hard. I just keep getting injured. So coming back, but I would say the Badwater was my hardest race so far.
135.
Which you're doing.
Oh,
no,
the 50.
Cape Fear. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
The beach run, it was brutal.
I
It's
love
like
to hear
a
that was your
sneaky-
hardest. I'm like, yes, let's go.
Yes.
Let's go. Do you know, I actually don't know this. If you do really well at Badwater Cape Fear, you can get into Badwater 135 if you win it. Can you?
It's a qualifier for sure. It's I don't know if you qualify or not, but I know it's part of the process of them believing you're capable of doing that.
Very good. I just want to get, do you remember the race director's name? He's really well known because he was in Goggins' book and like all this stuff. So Chris, I'm spacing on it. Anyway, he already has emailed me 2 times about it. I've signed up like a couple weeks ago, emailed me 2 times, sent me a packet, like he's on top of his shit. But I just want to get him aware of who I am. So I want to do really well at that one because Badwater 135 is my dream race. That's the one for me. So I'm curious for you, do you have anything like that you're like, that's the one, I'm working towards that, whether it's in 2024 or beyond?
So I want to do a 50 miler this year, and I want to do a 100 miler eventually. And then I'm sure the envelope for me always keeps going forward. So I don't feel like there's an end in sight. It's a process of me getting through each one. So I broke my tibia this year, which put me back, which is a huge bummer.
What happened?
It fractured from, people say overuse is a thing, but I disagree with it. What happened is I just had some hormone imbalances. My estrogen tanked, which made me susceptible to a break. So I had a break. And so just getting my hormones optimized and being aware of my hormones, and then also allowing my bone to recover and heal.
I think that guy's name is Chris Kosman. It just came into my mind. Is that right? Does that sound familiar? The race director's name, Chris Kosman.
It is Chris. He put my medal on, and they're awesome and well organized.
I can tell already.
Very well organized. Awesome race.
Because some of these races, you don't know. Yeah, you don't know what to expect, especially with some of these ultras. Like they just kind of get thrown together, and you're like, "What is going to be at these aid stations?" I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. There's some that are more legit than others, but this guy's definitely got his shit together.
100%.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the terrain. This is just selfish question for me. So how much of it is actually on like sand, and is it like hard compact sand, or it's like just loose like sand?
Good question. And you could drive there too and go take like a test run. The girl that wins it every year lives right there on the island, the female. Yeah, she's awesome. So cool for you because the first 13 miles are on the road. So you can just crush it.
Yep.
You can speed your way through the first 13 miles. There's about 2 miles, it might be 2.5 miles of trails. And they're pretty legit. Like you're ducking and jumping, and like you can go as fast as you can, but it's gonna slow you up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The sand is hard, it's compact, and it's deceiving because you can go, but it's like your feet are slowly doing this the whole time. You don't realize it. Yeah. So the quads were like burning. Screaming. Yes. And basically you go up and back and then out and back again. So 13, 14, so 15 of the miles are not on, then the rest is going to be all sand.
Okay.
And cool. It's up and back, and you'll see people, and you'll know what place you're in because you'll see, you're going like that.
I like that.
But I know you have the Hoka Tecton X's. Those were great shoes for that race.
Okay, good to know.
Because I could run on the road in those, go right to the trails, and then to the beach. They were awesome shoes for that.
I was not sure how they were going to do in the sand, but you said they were good.
They did great for me. Good. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm very, very excited for that one. Do you guys go out to races as far as just being like a vendor and like trying to do outreach that way?
Yeah, that's actually what we're doing a lot of right now. We just signed up for a race in Clearwater with the All Day Running Company.
Oh yeah.
We're doing a 3 of 7 project race. We're actually participating in those races. So those aren't races that we're set up at, but we are Beast of the East. We were set up at, that's part of what we do, give free samples. Those are our people. So we go and meet people, network. So just being in those environments. I mean, Mitchell met Chad Wright at the last one.
Yep. He's a beast.
He is a beast.
When you talk about some of these groups and everything, I'm in Devin Levesque's Inner Circle program. Do you know who Devin is?
No.
He's a part owner of All Day. Him and Jesse own All Day.
Oh, I do. Okay, now I know.
So I'm going to Austin next week. We have an in-person meetup down there, so I'm stoked about that. And as you guys know, there's a ton of endurance athletes down in Austin, so I'm excited to connect with them. I'll be hanging out with Matt Johnson, some of the homies down there. So it'll be
I
good.
love Matt. Matt's one of my favorite people. And Mitchell and I always say, because we have a ton of athletes in Texas, and I'm like, I don't know what they're drinking in Texas, but I want to drink some of that
Me
water.
too.
So bring me back some water from Texas.
Me too. I'll let you know what's going on down there because I don't know myself, but I want to find out for sure. I think that's a good way to kind of close out is to speak to the community here in Charlotte. Like you guys are Charlotte based. I know you go back and forth to, I believe, Kentucky from time to time, but primarily Charlotte based, right? And just kind of trying to do this grassroots movement starting from here. So speak to the community here in Charlotte and how you're trying to grow here locally.
Yeah, so we are really involved in the Charlotte community, and I love Charlotte. It's like my favorite place ever. I plan to be here forever, but we are getting involved in the running community for sure. And we're local, like Berrybrook, Earth Fair, tons of chiropractors, functional doctors. We are in Charlotte Supplements. We are in Charlotte Vitamins and Health. We are, I'm sure I'm missing some, but we are kind of all over the place in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And so if people, by now they should be, but if they're not familiar with you or Asé, where can they follow you? Where can they find you guys, get more information?
Yeah, so it's Asé, ASE, Pure Naturals with an S.com. So Asé, Pure Naturals.com.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Or at Instagram, just Asé Pure Naturals.
And you can now use code CPRICE for 20% off.
That's right.
Anything on the website. Thank you, Heather, so much for coming on. I had a blast talking to you. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. That's the pod.